I am so excited because today we're going to be going over my 24 top reads of 2024. I'm fighting for my life to keep this stack of books from falling over. All right, these are in no particular order. They're not even chronological in the order that I read them. They're not from most favorite to least favorite. I did, however, split them up in 3 categories. Our fiction books, we have nonfiction, which there's only 3, but they're still there. And then we have my favorite rereads. I felt like I needed to differentiate them. And I originally wanted to put no rereads on this list, but realistically, the reason why I had so many rereads this year was because it was kind of a dry year for reading for me because I decided to branch out. And nothing's wrong with that. I'm glad I branched out. It also showed me that romantasy is my comfort zone for a reason. So we're going to be jumping back to that in 2025. We're going to start off strong with Spectacular. This is the Christmas novella for Caraval. Usually I don't love novellas, especially Christmas novellas. I feel like they're usually so unnecessary, but this one was actually a really, really fun, like revisiting that world and those characters. All right, books 2 through 4 is actually a trilogy. We have Belladonna, and then the other 2 books in the series, which is Foxglove and my personal favorite from the series, Wisteria. Honestly, the first 2 books were good, but I feel like the 3rd book is really what took this trilogy from being like a good trilogy to an amazing trilogy. I'm actually a little heartbroken we're not getting a book 4. We are getting a novella next fall in 2025, so I'm looking forward to reading that. I think it's called Holly. Those live here next to Spectacular. As you could tell, in order to set up for this video, I very much had to deplete my bookshelf of its nutrients. Perfect. We're just gonna restock my bookshelf as we go. Next up, we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I know this gets a lot of slack for being overhyped, but in my opinion, you have to go into it expecting a very YA feel, and it did feel very nostalgic for me in the way that it was all of the fantasy and dystopian books that I loved growing up, all kind of crammed into one. So I really did love that aspect to it. I'm also really looking forward to book 3. Book 2 did not make it onto the list, unfortunately, because in my opinion, like book 2 was good. Like I enjoyed book 2, but only really because of that plot twist. I wouldn't say it was like an outstanding, amazing read, but I feel like the setup for book 3 is phenomenal. So I'm really excited to see what book 3 is going to be all about. Well, I know what it's going to be about. How in the world we're going to get around and out of it. That's the question. Now, my recent obsession as of this year is the Once Upon a Broken Heart books. Can we just take a minute to appreciate these? First of all, not only because of their covers, look at that. This one, not my favorite, but still very pretty. This one though, they're a little grimy because I did take them with me to the beach and I read them on the beach. Sometimes if I open the pages and shake them out, you can still get some sand to fall out of them. So that's lovely. But I did a whole reading vlog reading these in Florida, and I'm so glad I did that because I love moments when a book was amazing and I documented it in a vlog, because sometimes if I want to like re-experience that book, I actually will just like watch my own vlog of me reading it, and it's almost like home-styled videos. Although my reading vlogs aren't my most popular videos, they're the most fun for me to make and the most fun for me to look back on. So I will never have any regrets, and I'm especially happy that although technically the video of me reading Once Upon a Broken Heart did flop hard, I did absolutely love that book series. Then we have Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This one was actually a bit of a surprise. I usually don't like murder mystery, but this is the book that had me wondering if maybe I should give YA murder mystery a shot again. I did read book 2. I also loved it, but it didn't make the list, unfortunately. But I am going to be reading the 3rd book very soon. I wanted to by the end of the year because I like finishing entire series in 1 year, but unfortunately I'm just not going to get it in time, and I have a bunch of other books I'm trying to finish right now. I'm reading When the Moon Hatched, I'm reading a author arc that I got, and I'm reading Christmas Tree Farm right now. So I'm not gonna have time to read that in the next like week. The next one is the Scythe trilogy. Scythe, Thunderhead, and The Toll. These books honestly really shook me up, and they made me think really hard. If anything, it's like a dystopian book. about if AI takes over. But it wasn't like AI was this horrible thing. Like, it was like, what if AI actually is as amazing as everyone hopes it's going to be, to the point where it greatly improves the quality of life. But then the book kind of goes into, okay, but what is the quality of life? What is a good society? What would utopia look like if we could use AI to help us reach utopia? It is such a cool concept, and it's especially crazy when you think of how old the books are. Even a couple years from now, if someone rereads this book, it's going to be like scary how closer and closer and closer we're getting to the plotline of these books. Some people may think I'm crazy for that, but I've never been like super geeky about like what AI can do for the future, but that book series did it for me. Then we have the rom-commers. This one honestly got a lot of hate, so I'm really glad that I read it before it kind of got popular. Like, I read it as soon as it came out, and I'm so glad that I did, because I was able to read it, enjoy it, and review it. And then when all of the really bad reviews came in, it didn't taint my view of it, because sometimes I am susceptible to, if someone puts an idea in my head that a book is going to be bad or going to be good before I open it, it does greatly affect how I read the book. Did it feel really outlandish and ridiculous, and were some aspects of it extremely corny? Yes, but that was the point, and I loved it. So the last one in the fiction category is Divine Rivals. This one I also read for a vlog, and I'm so glad I did. I actually sobbed my eyes out in the last like 75 to 90% of this book. That one really ripped my heart out. Unfortunately, book 2 did not make the cut. I wouldn't say it was a disappointment, but it wasn't as phenomenal as the first book. Then I have 3 nonfiction books, starting off with 12 Rules for Life. Guys, I know that a lot of people complain that he speaks way too like scientifically, and he goes way too deep into certain analogies, and he can be really hard to read sometimes, so you really have to lock in. His 12 Rules for Life are actually phenomenal, and he actually breaks down the science behind the 12 Rules for Life. It's honestly changed the way that I view how I carry myself, how I walk into a room, and how I just live my day-to-day life. Then the next one is The Mountain Is You. I actually just read this a couple days ago, and I am so glad that I read it before the new year, because I feel like it was kind of like the tough love slap in the face that I needed, where basically instead of babying you and saying like, it's okay, you just need motivation, it's literally like, you are self-sabotaging yourself, so get over yourself, push past yourself, and do what you want to do. It was very honest and straightforward while still like being kind, and I liked the way everything was delivered. Then this one, I won't go too into it because I know a lot of people probably don't care, but it's called Ultra Processed People. I have a ton of crazy food sensitivities and food allergies to things that are highly processed, and the book kind of talks about how American food is so insanely processed and how bad it is for you, and how you can get past the whole processed food problem that we have over here in the States. So if you really struggle with like, you feel horrible after every single meal that you eat, or you want to stop eating processed foods because you don't like what it does to you, but you keep finding yourself going back because it's extremely addictive, then you need to read this book. It honestly completely changed my relationship with food, and I'm actually making some crazy changes to my health in the new year because of this book. Now, let's go over some of my rereads from the year. And we're gonna start off strong with the first 3 ACOTAR books, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, and A Court of Wings and Ruin. These books are phenomenal. I absolutely love the ACOTAR books. I reread the entire Massburst before this one came out this January. Notice it's not on the list, but I was really excited for this book to come out in January. So at the end of 2023, which is crazy because it didn't feel that long ago, but that's 2023 feels like forever ago. I read all of the Throne of Glass books and all of the ACOTAR books, and I wanted to finish them before the new year, but I just missed it. So I spent the first couple days and weeks of January of this year finishing the ACOTAR books before Crescent City came out, and these were the 3 that I got to, as well as the last book of Throne of Glass. So those were kind of the last 4 that I read in the reread. I'm like waiting for the day that a book just like falls on my head while I'm filming. Actually, that already kind of happened during a live. I forgot about that. I'm really hoping that the next book is exactly the height of that. Now, we have 4 more books left. Bear with me. Little Ruby had this amazing idea at the beginning of last summer. You know how Carrie Can Read did all of like the Akatar and Crescent City books, and she walked through the entire plots of them. And I realized she never did Throne of Glass, and I think she's actually spoken to this, like she doesn't ever plan to do them. And then I was like, you know what? I love Throne of Glass. It's my favorite mass-verse series, but sometimes you can't afford to just read 8 books every single time that you feel like it, and it usually takes a long time, and for someone who has to read so many books for like a booktube channel or something, you can't really afford to just do that. So I was like, what if someone made entire Throne of Glass plot recaps? So then I looked them up on YouTube. I couldn't find any. I mean, there were a couple, but they like never finished the series, or they weren't exactly plot recaps so much as like reviews or someone giving a lot of opinions, or they were doing like a really broad high level overview. I wanted someone who would kind of retell me the story in almost kind of like a FaceTime format. So that being said, I decided to do that this year with my entire plot series. You can watch it either on my YouTube channel, or I have a podcast called The Entire Plot with Ruby Jean, and you could watch them there as well. And I can officially say that I've made it through the first 4 books of the series. 3 of those 4 did make it onto the list. I must say, I feel like the last 4 books get a lot of love, and it was really nice to just dig deep into the original books before everything happens and really just see all of the Easter eggs that Sarah J. Maas laid out for the future books. Whether you're interested in reading Throne of Glass and using my videos as a kind of book club, or if you want to reread the books but you just don't have time, you can also watch them for that. But I highly recommend you check out those videos. I put a lot of time and effort and love into them, and I'm actually really excited to announce that I am going to be continuing with Queen of Shadows the very first Monday of January, and the plan is to post 1 a week until I finish the entire series. Why am I out of breath? Lifting books, guys, is a workout. I don't care what anyone says. Then the last book and the last reread. As many of you know, I did reread the entire Harry Potter series, which was so fun, and clearly I could not put all 7 of them. I mean, I technically could, but I decided not to. I did notice when I reread the entire series that one book in particular it hit harder than usual. It hit so different. I feel like I noticed things I'd never noticed before. It was like a whole new experience reading this book, and I cried like it was my first time reading it. I laughed like it was my first time reading it, and that is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I think it's because this one's never really been my favorite, and so when I have reread the books, I either only read the first couple books and never made it to 7, or whenever I did read 7, I did just kind of read through it quickly and carelessly, but I really took the time to understand what exactly J.K. Rowling was saying in this book, and it just hit all so entirely different, and I'm so glad that I reread this book series. Wait, that was 20 books? Which one do I remove? You know what? If I had to remove one from this list, I feel bad because I literally just fought for its right to be on this list so hard. But we're gonna take off the rom-commers, I think. I think it's because right before I wrote out my list of books for this video, I wrote out my list of 25 most anticipated reads for 2025, so my brain was on 25, but we're gonna scrap rom-commers. She's been removed. She's been fired. Those are my 24 top books of 2024. I'll see you tomorrow when I post another video, but in the meantime, you should subscribe so you get notified when I post my next video, and while you wait for the next video to come up, you should definitely check out the entire plot series of Throne of Glass that I told you about, and I will see you soon.